Okay, so we are doing the topic of a theory of Toeivah. Okay, what does the Chumash mean by Toeivah? And we're sticking to Chumash because if we expand this into Tanakh, then it would just be too much to work with. So we're going to start with Chumash here. And the thing that prompted this was we did a pasuk in Mishlei that was talking about unjust weights and measures, and it used the phrase Toeivah, and that's also a phrase that the because we've been learning there. That's also a phrase that the Chumash learns for unjust weights and measures. And so we were trying to approach the pasuk in Mishlei, and it was difficult because Toeivah is a very loaded term, and we wanted to figure out what it meant. And so I mentioned that I had developed a theory of Toeivah a while ago, but I haven't revisited it in a long time. So I thought we could try revisiting all the facts, and then I'll present my theory, and then we'll either trash the theory, revise the theory, or come up with a new theory. Okay? Yeah.
I thought point out. I thought there were going to be like 4 sources.
No, there's a lot more. Yeah. There's a lot more. And so here's the game plan I propose. Okay, there's going to be 2 phases. Okay, or I guess 3 phases depending on how you count it. Phase 1 is I want to go through each pasuk just to get the pshat, and I want to see it in context. Okay. And some of these are, I can toy with the idea of maybe only doing like averos that are called toevos, but then the term is used in like a handful of more places, so we might as well like get a full picture. So that's number 1, just get shot on the instances. Phase 2 is try to come up, you try to come up with a theory. And phase 3 is I'll present the theory I came up with, and then you tell me what you think about that. Okay. All right, so so for each of these, we're going to look it up in context. And the only reason I didn't put the context here is I just didn't want to copy and paste and deal with all that. So Bereshit 43:32, and this is a non-mitzvah context. And the reason why I want you to do the Chumash is because and this I did not get a chance to fact check beforehand. I think there are like a bunch of, or not bunch, there are several different unkelos approaches to the word Toeivah, and I am not aware of any pattern. So as we go through the Hebrew, I want to look at the unkelos also. Okay, so this is in the context of Yosef and his brothers, okay, before he revealed himself to them. And it says in 32, Ve'afimu lo levado v'lahem levadam. So he, just talking about the food. So he placed the food before him by himself and then by themselves. And the Egyptians that were eating with them alone. Because the Egyptians did not want to eat bread with the Hebrews. Because it was a Toeivah for Egypt. Unclear what the Toeivah is. What's your understanding of Pshat there?
Eating the bread with Jews.
Yeah, right. So, meaning because of what though?
I think just like it's sitting with them in meal.
Yeah, that's also the impression I got, that eating with Jews somehow, or with Ephraim, was a Toeivah. I saw someone suggest, I forgot who this was, that like something like that, they had their own kashrut standards, and like they couldn't eat the same bread as the Jews did, and they made it about the food. But plain shot, I think, is that they didn't want to eat with the Jews, right? So look at the onkelos here. So that's a straight translation. So the Egyptians could not eat with the Hebrews' bread. Okay, so I think what that means, and maybe I got to get a orach yamim here. Anyone come from what's the kind of translating that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The animals of Mitzrayim worshipped, the Ephraim were eating.
Yeah, that's exactly what it means, I think. The animals that the Egyptians literally that they feared, right? But I think that's synonymous with worship. The animals that the Egyptians ate feared, the Hebrews ate. So let me just check the orach yamim here. So first of all, so how is the Tunkelos? How is the Unkelos translating Toeivah? Not, right? He's interpreting it as literally like the object of their worship. So I think he's saying that Toeivah here is a euphemism, right? Like, and I think that this is something that like we often do. I think Chazal do it more than the Chumash does, but like that it calls the false gods Toeivah, you know? So I don't even think that this counts as one of our instances of Toeivah here, because it's just, according to unkelos at least, because it's just referring to the, hold on something here. Unkelos says, yeah, for the Hebrew retranslation of Ari habehema shehamitrim ovdim la ha'ibrim ochlim. Right. So the animal that the Egyptians worshipped, the Hebrews ate. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think that this counts. I think we should strike this from the record because it's not using the word Toeivah in a literal sense. It's using it in like a euphemistic.
Yeah, Rashi says unless it's just giving time with them.
Oh, okay, fine. That's interesting. Okay.
It's really good foreshadow though for like later with the Torah placement.
Yes, right. And in fact, I don't know where they got this from, but the Orpheum says stone. For the Beera. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, next. Bereshit Mem Vav Lamed Daled. Mem Vav Lamed Daled. 46:34. Thank you. Okay, so this is and this is related to that as well. The Amartem Anshe Haaretz. So this is when he's talking about settling. Yosef is settling his family in Goshen. So the Amartem Anshe Mifne Hayu, and you should say that men of livestock are you. Hayu Avadecha are your servants. Minurenu from our youth the Adata until now. Gam Anachnu Gam Avosenu. We and our forefathers. Babur Teshu Be'eretz Goshen, so that you may dwell in the land of Goshen. Ki Toavat Mitzrayim Kol Ro'eh Tzon, because it's an abomination to Egypt, all shepherds of sheep, right? So similarly, Onkelos takes the same approach. Are Be'ira Dimitrai Dachalin Le Kol Rai Ana. The animals that the Egyptians worshipped. Are Be'ira Dimitrai Dachalin Le. Yeah, it's weird, right?
Yeah.
Almost doesn't sound like a full sentence. I mean, I know, I see that they have the different nusach here. Are Merachakim Mitrai, the Egyptians abhor Kol Rai Ana, all shepherds of sheep. Yeah. Okay, fine.
For the first case, at least this Chumash also has the Nusach.
Oh, did I just gloss over that?
Yeah, it's a Moroccan.
Okay, fine. Yeah, and we're gonna see that that's a common translation. Merachak is translation of Toeivah that they avoid or distance themselves from. Okay. Yeah. About Unkelos, he's given the Tom.
A little different. He just says it.
Okay, fine. All right. One more non-mitzvah example, and then I think all the rest are mitzvah examples. So Shemos Ches Chaf Beis. Thank you. So this is in Moshe arguing about why they need to leave in order to do their avodas Hashem. So he says, "V'yomer Moshe lo nachon la'asot kain." It's not good for us to do this. So I think this is when Paro says, "Bring your offerings to Hashem in the land." So Moshe says, "Lo nachon la'asot kain ki toavat mitzrayim nizbach l'Hashem Elokeinu," because we got two examples here. Because if we slaughter the abomination of Egypt to Hashem our God, could we do that? Could we slaughter the abomination of the Egyptians in their eyes and not be stoned? So that's kind of insulting to Paro, right? But so again, Unkelos takes the same thing. Fine. So that's just a euphemism. So I guess my intuition was right. I should not have included these. So loud. Okay. Hopefully the Zoom doesn't pick it up. I think Zoom is pretty good at filtering stuff like that out.
Side point,
Yeah.
related.
Yeah.
It's like a weird approach for Moshe to take with Paro.
Yeah.
Like, we want to slaughter your God, but like we'll do it outside your turf.
Yeah.
Like, why would he be okay with that?
Right. I mean, he is giving a logical reason, which is that like if Paro is willing to let him do their avoda, but he also doesn't want them to get killed, like politically, it's not going to look good if he does this. You know? Yeah. It's a good question. Okay. Now we get to the first case in the Chumash, which doesn't occur until 1822 in Vayikra. This is the one that all of the Christians seize upon, right? Jews also, yeah. Okay, 18. So this is in Parshas Acharemos, and this is in the Arayos, 1822. Thank you. Okay, so we have this is towards the end of the list, I believe. Zachar lo tishkav mishkavei isha, and a male you should not lie with in a lying manner of a woman. Toeivah, it is an abomination. And Onkelos says, V'yas techura lo tishkuv mishkavei itasa toevtahi. So he translates it straight there. Toeivah. Okay, just abomination. All right. Okay, then you have at the end of that same parsha, and this is something that I feel like doesn't get enough press. Okay, 18, 26, 27, 28, and 29 and 30. Okay, so this is at the end of the arayos, starting from 26. After it goes through all of the arayos, it says, "Ushmartim atem et chukosai vet mishpatai." You should guard my chukim and mishpatim v'lo tatzu, and you should not do mikol hatoevot ha'eleh, all of these abominations. So what's shot in these abominations?
Oh, you're right.
All of your rights, right? Okay, that's okay. This is gonna be a weird thing. It's gonna get another weird one. The native and the sojourner who sojourns with you. Yeah, all of these abominations. Okay, it says ale instead of ela. We did a drasha on that in Mishlei. Okay, or the Gemara does a drasha. All of these abominations, the people of the land who were before you did. And the land became impure. And the land should not vomit you out when you contaminate it. Like it vomited out the people, the nation that was before you. Because anyone who does any one of these abominations, those souls will be cut off from their people. You should guard my safeguard. To not do the abominable statutes that were done before you, and you should not become impure through them. I'm Hashem your God. So you got this weird thing here, right? You got Mishka Zachor is isolated or specified as Toeivah, but then all the arayos are called Toeivah 4 times, right? So it does sound like the plain shot. All of the arayos are Toeivah, but then Mishka Zachor is particularly Toeivah. And Mishka Zachor is not the only one who's singled out. Obviously, like there's a bunch of like these commentaries on them of like, Chesed who, Tevel who, Zimahi, and if we did the full circuit of arayos, we would like go into what each of those are. But plain shot Toeivah is every one of them, and then specifically Mishka Zachor. Okay. Next, Vayikra 20:13, which is going to be the same Isser, but this is with the Onesh.
6 is good.
Thank you.
So it's a little bit of competition.
Yeah, it is. Yep. This is how it is in Rambam Bakiyos when we have the Rambams. Yeah. Yep. Okay. V'ish asher yishkav v'sachar mishkav isha toeva os asu shnehem. They have both done a toeva. Most yumatsu d'mehem. They shall surely die. Their blood is upon them. And Unkelos also says toevta. Oh, I forgot to look at the Unkelos in the. Oh, okay. Well, all right. No. Okay. So that is not a new example here. Okay. Oh, and you know what? I'm going to keep a separate list here of which mitzvot are called, or which aveiros are called Toeivah. So we've got Mishkav, Zachor, and then Arayos. Okay, so those are the only 2 so far. Okay, now we have Devarim.
Doesn't go back and like read Toeivah to all of them?
No, not this time. Devarim 7, 25, and 26. So nothing in Vayikra, nothing about Midbar, which is interesting.
25.
Yeah. 22.
Can you look ahead for that?
Should I have a starter pistol? Okay. Yeah. So this is in the context of conquering the land. Okay. So you'll conquer the land, you'll go slowly, and then you get 25. Pesile Elohim Tisrufun Ba'ish. They're carved or they're chiseled. What does it say? Yeah, carved images of their God you shall burn in the fire. Lo Sachmod. So that's the mitzvah I say to destroy Avodah Zarah in Eretz Yisrael. Okay. Then Lo Sachmod Kesef Zahav Aleim V'Lakachta Lach. You shall not covet the silver and gold that is upon them and take them for yourselves. Pen Tivakesh Go, lest you be ensnared by it. Ki Toavat Hashem Elokecha Hu, because it is an abomination of Hashem your God. So that is referring to, I guess we would call it takrovis of Avodah Zarah. Okay, that's offerings to Avodah Zarah. Is it Toeivah? And there the Unkelos says, so here he changes it. Mirachaka dadoshem elakafu. It is mirachaka dadoshem elakaf. I don't know the best way to translate this. A distancer of Hashem your God, meaning it distances Hashem your God. Okay. And then he says, the public says, below Savi Toeivah al Beisaha, you shall not bring an abomination into your house, and become like a contraband like it. Okay, so you got another 4 instances of Toeivah here. Okay, you shall reject it and you shall abominate it, surely abominate it because it is contraband. Okay, so this is also Torah was avodah zarah, seemingly, right? Unless you're talking about avodah zarah itself. Does Rashi say anything? I mean, I believe you cannot derive hana from an idol itself also. Okay, I think that's what we learned this from, or that this is where we learned that from. Okay, fine. All right, next we have 1231, 1007. Oh. Okay, and actually I think we should start off with 1029.
I don't know if that counts. Call it the English page.
Oh.
Even 10:06.
What was that?
You see?
1006?
Yeah.
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 This is the same context. When Hashem your God cuts off the nations that you come to inherit their land from before you, and you will inherit them and you will settle in their land. Be careful of yourself, lest you be ensnared after them. After they've been annihilated from before you, lest you inquire into their gods, saying, how do they worship? These people worship their gods, and I will do the same. So that's the issue of al tifnu. Don't incline in curiosity towards the other religions. Lo tatu tata kin la Hashem elokecha. Don't do such to Hashem your God. Ki kol to'evos Hashem asher saneh asu lelohim. All of the things that are abominable to Hashem that He hates, they did to their gods. Igam es b'nehem es b'nehosehem yisrafu ba'esh lelohim. Even their sons and daughters, they burn in the fire to their gods. So this is talking about just avodah zarah, right? Actual avodah zarah, and the things that Hashem hates in it.
How do you arrive for Rafi? So I saw earlier you said Toeivah meant something that's hated.
Yes, yeah.
Here it's directly linking.
Right, and Toeivah, plain shot is Toeivah means that you hate it so much that you distance yourself from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the idea. Okay, so Uncle here says,
So why are we looking for a theory more of a bedroom?
why are we thinking what?
Looking for a theory then?
Because we have to unify all the mitzvos that are called Toeivah. God hates all of eros. So why single these out for hatred?
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
And right now you're like, oh, it's avodah zarah and a rayos, big deal.
Yeah.
But no. Okay, there's gonna be some weird ones in a little while.
And repeated on both.
Yes, repeat above, right. So he says here, lo sabe king kadam Hashem alaka. I called him mirachak kadam Hashem disane avadu tavasan. So anything that God distances himself from. Okay. So again, he says that. Okay, fine. All right. Is this the first weird one? Yeah. So this one doesn't quite fit in. Now you could fit it in, but 14.3 in Devarim, which is on 10. Did I skip one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which one?
You'd give them.
Oh, funny. I just I thought that was one I read, but it's not. It's just the same phrase. 13 and 15. 13, 15. Yeah. So this is also avodah zarah, right?
Yes.
This is the ir hanidachas. Okay, so you if they go to the ir hanidachas, then what do you do? V'darashta v'chakarta v'shalta hetev hine emes nachon adar nesach toivah hadot v'kirbacha. And here he says to'evta. See, this is what confuses me about the Unglos, because it's not just avodah zarah. He says one translation, and other stuff he says another translation. Merachaka sometimes and to'evta sometimes. If we come up with theory for Unglos, that's bonus points, but I don't know if we can do that.
What is it, Iri Dachas?
So Ir Hanidachas is one of the cases that I think Chazal say never happened and never will happen, where a whole city of avodah zarah a whole city is led astray to worship avodah zarah, and you have to kill all the inhabitants and then destroy the city, burn the city down, and never rebuild it.
You mean in Ezra times?
Yeah. I think it's just very, very specific parameters, kind of like in Torah Remora. Yeah. Okay, now we do 14. What did I say? 14.3. Yeah. So this is non-kosher animals. Okay, and here it says, and it introduces it, lo tzochal kol toeivah. Don't eat any abomination.
Yep.
Okay, so this is behema tamea. Okay, and then it goes and lists all of them. So presumably all non-kosher species are toeivah. Okay, seems much less tame than the other ones, or much more tame than the other ones, I should say. Okay, next is 17.1. Okay, this is gonna be another weird one that you would have expected to find in Vayikra. Yeah, 10:24. Lo sizbach l'Hashem elkacha shor v'aseh asher yihi bo mum kol davar ra. You should not offer to Hashem your God an ox or a sheep, anything that has a blemish in it, any bad thing. Ki toevah Hashem elkachahu, because it is the toeva to Hashem.
Does that mean an animal with a mum is a toiva, or offering an animal?
I think offering an animal. Actually, that's a legitimate question. I could read it.
I was inclined to like the latter.
Yeah, offering it. Lo sizbach l'Hashem elkacha shor v'aseh asher yihi bo mum kol asher davar ra. Ki toevah Hashem elkachahu. Yeah, I would think it's the latter. It's offering it.
Okay.
I can't bring a proof of that, but yeah. And Uncle says Murachak Kadam Hashem Lakafu. Okay, so this is Hakravas Balmum. Okay. All right. Next, 17.4.
Yep.
So a few took them later. So this is also a Avodah Zarah, right? This is starts with base. Kimati b'kivrcha be'achat rach asher Hashem elkecha nofen ish o isha asher yate et hara b'nei Hashem elkecha la'avor brito v'yalach v'yavod el him achirim b'shak v'lehem v'el Hashem ole yareach ole chol tzva shemaim asher lo tivisi v'hugad l'cha b'shemata v'drash hekev v'hinei emes nachon adavar nefsa ha'to'eva azos b'Yisrael. That's Avodah Zarah. And here Uncle says Toeivah. Okay, guys, that's nothing new. Then we got 18.9.
10:30.
Thank you. Okay, so this is 18.9. Yeah. Ki'ata ba el ha'aretz asher Hashem elokacha noten lach. So when you come to the land that Hashem your God gives you, lo tzilimod la'atot k'to'evot hagoyim ha'heim. So you should not do like the abominations of those nations. Now it sounds like that is talking about Avodah Zarah, right? That's what you would guess, but it's not exactly. Lo yimatze b'cha ma'avir benovito ba'esh. So that's mole.
Right.
Okay.
Debatably Avodah Zarah.
Right. It's definitely singled out as a special kind of Avodah Zarah.
Right.
Potim k'tamim. That's going into a trance, to predict the future. Ma'onin, lucky times, astrology. Menachesh, omen reading. Umachashev, sorcery. V'chol v'erchaver, magical incantations. V'shul ovi yidoni, v'dort al-hametim, inquiring of an ov and yidoni, those types of oracles, and then inquiring of the dead. Ki toavas Hashem, that's probably, is that the, yeah, that's the one that, oh, that's the,
It's two.
it's two, yeah. Ki toavas Hashem elokecha, Hashem ko ose'ela, ubiglach toiv ose'ela, oh, three. Hashem elokecha morish osam mipanecha. Tamim ki yim Hashem elokecha. Yeah. So, and then he reiterates, Ki agoyim ha'ela asher ata yorosh osam el ma'onim el kosmim yishma'u, v'ata lochein nachon l'chad Hashem elokecha, navi b'kir b'cha me'achacha kamoni asher yakim Hashem elokecha. So we did this in Rambam Pekius, is that like God gives us Nevi'im so that we don't have to turn to these occult things. So this seems to be like occult stuff. So it is in the Indian Avodah Zarah, but it's not worshiping Avodah Zarah. It's like seeking out. I don't know what the word is in Hebrew for this category of stuff. Like in English, we say occult, right? Occult practices.
You see that this year?
No.
Sorry, where he switches every single time.
Weird. Starting off with yeah. Hold on just a second. Ta'avats, that's weird. The error of the nations, right? Yeah, and then in, what do you say, in 12?
Yeah.
Toavasa. And then,
Morocco, then Toavasa.
oh, Morocco, then Toavasa. Weird. Yeah. I don't know if we're going to come up with a theory from the list. It's, I just don't see any pattern, yeah. Okay. Next is, oh, we got two more now. Oh, no, we have more after that. Okay, 2018.
Sounds like a year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good year.
10:40.
Okay. Yeah, this is, I think, Avodah Zarah also. When you go into the land, You'll destroy all these people. Lama'an asher lo yulamdu eschem la'asos kachol to'avosam asher atu lelohem v'chatatem l'Hashem elokechem. So that's avodah zarah or avodah zarah practices.
Also, a lot of these avodah zarahs are particularly like upon the entering of the land.
Yes, that's also true. Yeah, this is 12 aton. Okay, and now we get to a new one, 22.5, which is on page 1050. Technically, was also here. Lo yeh kli gever al isha v'lo yilbash gever simlat isha ki tovas adushem elokecha kol ose ele. So this is beged ish and beged isha, right? Which is a weird mixture. What general theme would you classify this in?
Gives me a rioty kind of vibe.
Yeah. So one possibility is it's a rioty type vibes. The other one is avodah zarah, right? The Rambam codifies this in Hilchos avodah zarah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, presumably because they did this for like cultic reasons.
Like what?
I don't know if it was like their types of like priests or prostitutes or some ritual purposes, you know. So I think it is machlokas rishonim though, because I think Ibn Ezra says that it would be like for znus type purposes, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, also kind of weird because it's not, whatever framework you say it's in, doesn't seem quite as egregious as like actual Isuri Bia and avodah zarah, you know. Okay, 23.8. Plus, I got to write that one down. Beged ish.
That's actually interesting.
Yeah.
Rashi says on this one for Toeivah.
Yeah.
Lo asher Torah el levush hamevi de Toeivah. He's like.
That's funny.
In this explanation.
Yeah. So he doesn't even say what
This
he holds the Toeivah is, whether it's avodah zarah or a znus.
It seems to know.
Yeah.
Based on the way he defined the clothing.
Okay, where are we at now? 23:19. Yeah. Oh, this is the weirdest one.
23.
Oh, did I skip one?
Yep.
Okay.
23.
23. Okay, yeah. This is not the weirdest one. 23.8. Okay. Yeah. So this one also is not a mitzvah. This is a. This is a mitzvah, but it's not using the word toeivah to describe an aver. Lo tisa'iv adomi ki achichahu. You should not abominate an Edomite because he's your brother. Lo tisa'iv mitri kigir hayiseh ba'arto. You should not abominate an Egyptian because he was a stranger in your land. Bani Masher, and I'll say what this means now. Bani Masher yivaldu lahem dor shlishi yavo lahem b'kal Hashem. Children who will be born to them in the third generation may come into the congregation of Hashem. So this is the Isser. So it's usher to marry an Edomite or Egyptian convert in the first generation or the second, but the third one you can. And if you refrain from marrying one of them because of prejudice, then that is a violation of a losas pasate. The weird, it's like a codification of prejudice. You can be prejudiced against them for the first two generations, but if you carry it into the third one, then that's crossing the line. Yeah, weird. I think I wrote an article about this in the summer. And this says lo taracha. So this one I don't really count. This is not a Toeivah. This is describing like human abomination. So I don't think this really counts for our purposes. Okay, now is the weirdest one. 23:19. Okay. Lo tabi esnan zona umachir kelev beis adoshem lokacha lechol neder. Okay, you should not bring, article says, a harlot hire or the exchange for a dog to the house of Hashem your God for any vow. Because both of them are an abomination to Hashem. So I think.
But what is Gam doing there?
Yeah, Gam. Yeah, exactly. For programs. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, this is if let's say like a.
Oh, this is your area, Tmura, right? Tmura, or am I imagining that?
I'm doing Mishlei Tomorrow right now currently.
Okay.
And I did a lot of the first part with Josh.
Okay. So you want to explain this?
Yeah. This isn't a Tomorrow thing. This came up in Nedarim, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Did it come in Nedarim? No, it came up in Geneva. Okay, whatever. Basically that an animal that was used to pay a zona, or an animal that was given like traded for a dog.
Yeah. It's like a bizarrely specific thing.
Yeah. You can't use those for a korban.
Yeah. And that's a separate los asay, or according to the Rambam, apparently, it's two los asays. Esnan Zona and Mechir Kelev.
It kind of makes sense as two, because they don't seem to be the same.
No, they don't seem to be related. Yeah, right. But yeah. Weird that should be a mitzvah at all. Okay. All right. So that's one of the weird ones.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I just. No, like something Rock said, call back, because I think this is a Gemara in Baba Kama.
Oh, okay.
But he quotes from Tamura, but I think it's there also.
Okay. And then Uncle says, Maracha Kadam Hashem Lakach. Yeah. Okay. We only got a couple more. 25. Sorry, no. 24. 4. Okay. 24. This one is also very specific. Yeah, I think we have to read earlier. Okay.
Sorry. Also, one more thing regarding the Esan Zona.
Yeah.
It seems that here it's not the bringing of them that's the Toeivah. It seems like the thing itself.
Yes, Gam Snehem. Yeah, I hear. Okay, so start at the beginning of 24. Ki yikach ish isha ubala. So when a guy marries a woman and has bia with her, v'haya im lo simtzachin be'inav. If he doesn't find favor in his eyes, himata ba erbat dara, because he finds some sort of like immorality. Immorality. V'chatav la sefer kritus v'natam biyada. He should give her a divorce document and give it into her hand. V'shilcha bim beito, and send her out from his house. Yatami beito, and she will go out from his house. V'halcha v'haital isha and she could go marry another guy. And she goes out and she marries another guy. And that second guy also hates her. And he gives her a divorce document, and puts it in her hand. And she sends her out from his house. Or the latter guy dies. The guy who married her. Now here's the answer. Her first husband, who divorced her originally, cannot go back and take her to be a wife. Because she has become contaminated. Toeivah because that is Toeivah lifnei Hashem. And you shall not, contaminate? You shall not bring sin. Okay, fine. That's the land that Hashem God gives you as an inheritance. So basically, if a guy divorces a woman, he can remarry her, unless she gets married to another guy. Once she gets married to another guy, he cannot take her back even if the other guy dies. And that's a Toeivah. Taking her back is another Toeivah. And that is referred to as Murachacha. What? It's Murachacha. In Uncle. Okay. All right, now we get to the one that started this whole thing for us in Mishlei, 25:16. Okay, I feel like I've read this a zillion times this week. Starting from 13. Lo yihi alacha b'kitzcha evan va'aven gadol l'ktani. You should not have in your pouch 2 stones, one big and one small. Lo yihi alacha b'veitzcha efa v'efa gadol l'ktani. You should not have in your house 2 efa weights, one big and one small. So that's the whole thing, is that if you are, all right, let me see if I can say this right. I never say this right. If you're buying from the other person, you use the heavier, wait. How does it work, Isaac?
Yeah,
the heavier weight.
You use the heavier weight because then you get more.
Yeah.
When you get a stone's weight.
Right, and then if you're selling to the other person, you use the smaller one to make them pay more for less. Yeah. Okay. Evan shlema v'tzedek yihelach, efa shlema v'tzedek yihelach. You should have a whole and accurate stone and a whole and accurate measure. L'man yarith li'achamecha al ha'adama asher Hashem elokecha noten lach. In order to prolong your days on the land that Hashem gives you. Ki tov Hashem elokecha kol ose ela. Because it is an abomination to Hashem God. Anyone who does these, kol ose alvel. Anyone who does iniquity. So this is a similar thing to the Mishkav Zachar, because it's saying anyone who does this, it's a Toeivah. But anyone who does any injustice is a Toeivah. So it's singling one out, but it's saying a category here. I forgot to write down. I don't know what you call this thing of like Kiddushin, Labal Harishon, La'achar Gerushin. Yes, thank you. I knew there was some sort of like concise phrase. Okay, and then you've got Evan Va'aven. Yeah, okay. Then is this the then this last one is, or not this last one. Yeah, these last ones I don't think are mitzvos. I think these are just tokachos. 27:15. This is really a curse. This is in all the arurs. 15. Is that a typo? 27:15. Oh, does it say?
15,
It is 16. Yeah. So I had a typo there.
no, it's 15.
It's 15.
Is it both?
Is it both?
It's definitely
Or
Tesla.
yeah, there's no 15. 16 is our atab year our atab is wait.
No, or it's 15.
Or 15.
Or each?
Yeah.
That's 15.
I'm just looking in the wrong chapter. 20.
No,
Oh
no,
yeah, I'm
or-
looking in the wrong chapter. I'm looking in 28, that's why.
So 28, 16 all starts RH.
No, that's why I was getting confused.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 28, sorry, 28:16 does.
That's
That's weird.
for a while.
Yeah. So this is 27:15. Yeah, there we go. Or ha'ish asher ya'at petzel u'matecha to'av Shem mate de charash v'sam basaser v'anu kolam v'amru amen. That sounds like it's the idol itself, right? It's called a Toeivah. Yeah. Okay. Right. So this is So I'm fine lumping this into Avodah Zarah. Okay. And then the last one is in Hazinu Yachnihu Bezarim Voti Yachisuhu. That's also talking about Avodah Zarah, that they angered him with abominations. Okay. So just to read the list now. Okay. Now that we've done all this hard work here, we've got Arayot with Mishkav Zachar singled out. We've got Avodah Zarah, lots of references with several things singled out. Takrovis Avodah Zarah, which is offerings. The idol itself, and occult practices. Okay, so those are all lumped under Avodah Zarah.
Can you share the list on screen?
Oh, yeah. So you mean I have to type it in ways that people can read it and understand it? Okay. So I'm gonna have to redo this here. So Arayos, Ubifrat, Mishkav Zachar, and then we've got Avodah Zarah. See, I wouldn't have done this on Notepad. I should plan better. Okay, Avodah Zarah will be.
That's okay. You don't need to like edit it or like.
Yeah, I'll make a whole PowerPoint. Okay. Yeah, Bifrat Takrovas Avodah Zarah. I'm just gonna say Nichush V'Gomer or V'Kule. Okay, like occult practices. Okay, then you've got Behema Tamea, non-kosher animals. Then you've got offering a balmum. And then you've got Beged Ish and Beged Isha, then Esnan Zona and Mechir Kelev, then Hachzaras Grusha, and then Evan Va'aven. There's your list. So the question is, what is the mashal of Toeivah in general? I mean, obviously it's a mashal, because God doesn't have emotions. And then what theory can we have to explain these to unify them? Now, if you want, I can give you one hint from the Sefer Achina, or we could work on it first before we do the hint.
Let's clarify something.
Yeah.
When you're saying it's a metaphor, you're saying it that because of the lesson of like Toeivah Vashem,
Yeah.
that's what is the thing having an objective description.
Yeah, correct. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Isaac, I'm just making this on Word, but you can look at the list there. There we go. All nice and big. Okay. And that might be the place to start also. Just what is the idea of God hates something, you know?
If you do this briefly one more time.
So Arayos
Right.
with Mishkav Zachar singled out. Avodah Zarah with Avodah Zarah offerings and occult practices and idols singled out. Behemoth Mea, non-kosher species. Hakravat Balmun, which you could, if you want, I don't know if this is fair, put the Esnan Zona and Mechir Kelev with that, because that is also in the realm of offering, you know. But I don't know if those are, I don't know, it might be, you have to analyze that particular mitzvah. Beged Ish and Beged Isha, which we said could go in Avodah Zarah or could go in Arayos. Hakzaras Grusha, which also seems to be in the Arayos category, and then Evan V'Aven, which is the only one of these things. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have said Evan V'Aven. I should have said Kol Ose Avel, anyone who does iniquity, Ubifrat Evan V'Aven. So that's the only one that is strictly in Mishpatim.
Just about the Tekravas Balmum and Esan Zona Machir Kalev.
Mm-hmm.
So by Esan Zona Machir Kalev, I think the idea that Rabbi Pesach said, like briefly, it was that they basically they're like the animals are like being used as like an exchange for like very like base things.
Right.
So that's like I think like a negative like stigma attached to the animal.
Right.
Which I think is similar to a problem.
Yeah. I think it does match up. Yeah. What was I gonna say? Just to mention, and I don't know if this is gonna be relevant or not. I said before that we're gonna stick to the Chumash here, but just to give examples, there are other things in Mishlei that are called Toeivah, like murder, which is weird that the Chumash doesn't call it that. Haughtiness, lying, and that's one of the reasons I didn't want to go into Mishlei. And I feel like you're okay if you have a theory just about Chumash, like that's fine. If you can broaden it, then better. But like, and even to go to Mishlei, like maybe you need to go to Chumash first,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did. Do you see it on?
Sure.
Not being able to defend it.
Sure.
Read something that's philosophically abhorrent, but there's some reason why I might not emotionally feel that way.
Okay, good. Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, good. I agree with that. That's also the basis of my answer. But I have a twist. Yeah. And are you saying that emotionally because is there something about like the term Toeivah Hashem that is leaning in that direction?
No, it's the examples.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe to put those two together.
Yeah.
Maybe that because it's emotionally not striking at something so wrong.
Yeah.
It needs to use a strong language.
Okay. All right. There you go. Okay. So let me share the theory. Okay. We're going to take one step though beforehand, which is not necessary for clarifying the step that you guys took, but I think it stems directly from Onkelos, so I want to start with this. So look, the Sefer Chinuch, I quote there from Mitzvah Kuf Pei Ches, which is in Lo Tikru Lagalat Erva. That's the Itzer D'Oraisa to engage in anything that could lead you to Erva. Okay, so in it he says like this: the Nichbal Halav Hazeh. So the main pasuk is Lo Sikru Lagalat Erva. Do not come close to committing a rios. The Nichbal Halav Hazeh. Halav the Isser Zed. So the Lo Sase is repeated with this Isser. Ba'amro in the statement, V'lo sasu mikol ha'toevas. Do not do any of the abominations. Sheyichalel kol inyanim ela shehem to'avas Hashem yisparach. That includes all the things that are an abomination of Hashem. Flomar. Here's where he defines it. And by the way, I think I went through all the Mefarshim today. I didn't go through all of them on every pasuk, but like I went through all of them on the first instance of it in the Mishkav Zachar, and I think I might have done it on the first instance of Toeivah in the Bereshis thing. No one defines Toeivah, okay? Like they will give synonyms like it's disgusting, but they won't explain it like the Sefer Chinuch does. This is the clearest definition I've seen. Klomar, sheha'ote osan yerachik min hatova. Someone who does them will become distant from the good. Umetir me alav hashgachat Hashem baruch hu, and removes from himself God's providence, which I think is him interpreting donkelos, marachaka min kadam Hashem. It distances you from God. What else could that mean other than removing you from the good and God's hashgacha?
That just seems like that's a definition of any of it.
Okay, good. So that's where I think what you guys are saying is going to come in. Okay. All right. V'zehu perush ti'uv Hashem yisbarach b'chol makom lefi ma shemati. So it's not his explanation, right? So this is the explanation of abomination of Hashem in all places, according to what I've heard. V'gam kain mash katu b'sof ha'inyan ki et kol ha'toivos ha'el atu anshe ha'aretz asher lifneichem v'akut bam. God says, I am disgusted by them. Ha'inyan lomar shehamida meguna me'od. I think it's supposed to be meguna. That the trait is very despicable. V'chol davar ra'u ma'ut b'yoser yichane ha'kazal ilu Hashem yisbarach stone also. Anything that is very evil and contemptible, the pasuk speaks as though God hates it. V'hakol al inin shamarnu ukein ma she'amru zichron livracha b'chol makom kedei l'saber es or l'sakef es ha'ozen ma shehi yachol l'shma. Have you heard that phrase before? It's the less commonly quoted version of Divrei Torah Kalash B'nei Adam. It's to make the ear hear what it can hear. So in other words, it's anthropomorphizing Hashem, that when you hate something, so what I'm getting from this is when you hate something, you distance yourself from it. So if it says God hates something, it means that God is distant from it. Okay. And that means practically that you're distant from the hashgacha. Okay. So now the question is what you just said, which is that could be applied to any avera. Okay. So these last two steps now are my two rayos, which are speculative. Okay. Because they're not even talking about Toeivah. Or sorry, the first one's not talking about Toeivah, but I'm using it as a basis for arriving at the idea that you guys are saying. Okay, so I'm going to blame on you. Okay, so the Rambam in the Moreh Nevuchim in the Tanya Mitzvos, when he's explaining how the Torah gives punishments or assigns punishments to things. Okay, I'm sorry, let me back up for a second. The Rambam's premise, which he spells out in Pirkei Avot, is that generally speaking, the punishments. You can look at the punishment and determine the severity of the avera based on that. So skila, treifa, heraklenek, misa b'dei shemaim, kares, malchus, and then like no onesh midaraisa. Okay, that's the order descending from severe to less severe. Okay, but here he qualifies it.
Kares is like under this?
I believe kares is under misa b'dei shemaim because I think you get kares when you get the misos. Whereas
it's like automatic.
I think it's automatic. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, unless you do when you do tshuva, but if you do the action, you're five cars also. Okay, Rambam says like this: Da ki godel haonesh v'chomer pigiaso. So you should know that the severity or the magnitude of the sin and the severity of its pigiaso is encountering. O katno v'kalos sevilaso, or its minority is not the right word for it, but the smallness of it and the ease of tolerating it, are based on four factors. Okay, so there are four things that determine the severity of an onesh. One is what I just mentioned, is the severity of the avera itself. The actions which have a greater, more destructive outcome have a greater punishment. And the ones that have a less severe consequence have a lesser onesh. So that's principle number one. Okay. Basheni, second one, ribui mitziusan, the prevalence of the avera. Shadvarim hamatsuyim yoser tsaris leman an be'onesh chamor. Things that are more common require a greater onesh to prevent them. About me'ati hamatzius hare onesh kal im miut mitziusan machdik b'minyasan. But if it's a very infrequent thing, rare thing, so then a light onesh and the infrequency will be enough. So this is now we get into interaction here. Like, what if you have something? Apparently, you can have something that is a very not severe thing, but it's very, very common. So you might have a higher onesh because of the commonness, not because the thing is so severe. Bashlishi, the third one, godel ha'azah shebadavar, the magnitude of brazenness in the matter. Okay, ki hadavar sheyesh la'adam ha'azah la'asoso, something that would require a great brazenness to do. Whether because the taiva draws you in exceedingly, or because of habit, or the great pain in abandoning it. I shouldn't say brazenness might be the wrong translation here. I think it means like the degree of attachment to the thing, or like temptation for the thing. So let's say someone has a very powerful taiva for something, you're going to need a huge onesh to deter you from doing it. Or if it's something that you're in the habit of doing, or you're prone to habitually, or if it's going to cause you pain to abandon it, then you need a big onesh to keep that there. Okay. And then the fourth one, revi kalus asiyas osa ha'ula, behelam ubahaster. Okay, the ease of doing that action secretly and in a hidden way. Kidei shelo yargishu bo acherim, so that other people don't notice. In order to scare you away from this, lo tehe ki'im b'chashash onesh kasha v'chamor. You need a huge onesh.
The great one.
Yeah, it's great one. Okay, right. So you can see how these interact, and like you can't now just look at an onesh and say, well, it must be that this thing is really, really bad. Okay, so this is piece number one. Now this last part is the crazy Gemara. Have you heard the Gemara's explanation for Toeivah? Kind of classic. Okay, but it's crazy. Amar le bar kapara le Rebbe. Okay, so bar kapara said to Rebbe, my Toeivah. What does it mean by Mishkav Zachar when it says Toeivah? Okay, so that was his question. Hold Amar le Rebbe. Yeah.
A weird question.
Yeah.
How do we know it's referring to that person?
I just got that from the Torah.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's a good question. Yeah, meaning because it could be lots of the other examples that we said.
Could be in context of the Gemara.
That's it. Yes, because after this it goes through a bunch of the other Arias terms, and in order, I think, or not maybe not in order, but like the Tevel and everything. Yeah. Okay. So what does it mean Toeivah? Hold Amar le Rebbe dahafin hu Toeivah parka bar kapara. So anything that Rebbe answered about it, Bar Kapara refuted, or he asked coaches on Pirka. Okay, so like Rebbe tried giving answers, and Bar Kapara shot it down. Okay, so Amrle parte you explain it to me. Okay, so he's like, okay, fine, Bar Kapara, like you're not accepting my answers, you explain it. Amrle Haisi basically tumuli natla. Okay, get your wife and have her pour for me a cup of wine. Okay. Atsa Ramiale. So she came and she poured for him a cup of wine. Amrle le Rebbe, he said to Rebbe, Kum rukodli, get up and dance for me. Okay. I mean, he was drunk at this point. The imar lach, and I'll say to you, so now he answers him. Amar Rahmana Toeivah. What does it mean Toeivah? Toe ata ba. You go astray in it. Okay, and there are various explanations. I just quoted two of them. Okay, so this is from Mishkav Zachar, right? So I don't know who this actually is. The Miyuchas L'Rashi says Toyataba Klomer Shemaniach es ishto shel heter v'tafas zo shel znut. Don't know what that means because that's not Mishkav Zachar. So maybe he's learning it that it's a different isser, that you leave your wife of heter and you take the wife of znus. It might be he's talking about I'm not sure. I would think of Kadesha, but it doesn't say Toeivah by Kadesha. But then Tosfos is the more common one.
It is the Grusha case.
Hazrat Grusha, that could be. Yeah. Okay, so Tosfos says the Toeivah Shemanichin Nishosein V'holchin Eitzel Mishkav Zachar. Basically, they would stray from their wives and then go to Mishkav Zachar. Okay, so my question is not. I mean, you can ask a question on like what does he mean by Toeivah by Mishkav Zachar. I don't think we need to get into that. My question is, what's the deal with this whole story, okay, of like, get me some wine and then dance for me and then I'll tell you, and then he tells him?
That's weird.
Yeah. Okay. And I think I might be getting this mixed up, but I think the context was like it was at a party or something like that. That's why it's not just like randomly asking to bring wine, I think. Yeah. Okay. So here's my theory. Okay. And this is, again, I think this is the direction that both of you were going, but I'm trying to support it from here is like this. Okay. There is no unifying factor in the things that the Torah calls a Toeivah. Okay, Toeivah is a stigmatizing term, and it's an emotionally stigmatizing term. Okay, and the Torah employs it in order to have an extra deterrence from something that needs an extra deterrence. An extra deterrence could be for any one of the factors that the Rambam mentions. Okay, meaning in some cases, like Avodah Zarah and Arayos, it's very severe. Okay, in other cases, it's because it's very common. Like, I'm not sure which one falls into which category, but when I originally came up with this theory, I was taking into account Mishlei because that was where it came from. But let's say like, you could say that all the forms of injustice and the weights and measures was very, very common for people to cheat people out of that, or let's say if you're going to go into Mishlei lying, is a very common thing. So that's a Toeivah. Or it could be because of the tremendous desire attached to them, like the arayos and like the avodah zarah also, and some of these could fall into many categories. Or it could be because of the thought that you could do it in secret, or through sneaky means of like the and maybe I'm reading to this from stuff that goes on in modern day stuff, but I'm thinking about the what do you call grusha. I mean, I think in modern day society, like spouse swapping is a thing. That's a thing that like people do, and if people were allowed to do that through Girushin and Kiddushin, they would feel like, oh, technically, like no one is sleeping with anyone else's spouse. I'm married to her, and then like now she's married to this other guy, and like it would lead to this like promiscuity. And people are like dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. Or another thing is a lot of these injustice things. That was the thing we did in Mishlei. Is it's very easy to just like miscalibrate your weights and think that no one's going to notice, and then you're going to get away from it. So that explains the story, I think, because in order for it to work as a deterrent, then you need to not know that it's a psychological mechanism, meaning like for something like avodah zarah that's philosophically bad, like maybe you can come up with or I guess it's true for all of them, but like you can, if you're a perfected person and you understand the Torah and mitzvos, you'll understand why this is really bad, either for you or for the society, but in order for it to work as a deterrent, and you say, oh, God hates this, people need to not know that it is a deterrent, that dilutes it, in a way. With an onus, it won't have that problem because you're going to get the onus. Doesn't matter if like you don't look at it as like severe, but like saying God hates this thing is, if you like pull the curtain back and say that, oh, it's just a way that God is, that the Torah is using to keep you away from this thing. That's not something that you talk about, which is why, again, speculation, but why Bar Kapara had to like be drunk in order to reveal that it doesn't. I mean, the explanation that he gives, Toe Ataba, you stray in it. That's a very like tame sort of explanation for why this thing is bad. Now what actually makes it bad is because it interferes with kedusha of Isur Bia, and that's a systemic thing that can affect all of Klal Yisrael. But just like a particular act of eating pork is not detrimental to your perfection, so too a particular act of arayos, in most cases, with the possible exception of adultery, is not like a disaster for a person's perfection. Like that's the Rambam's explanation of incest, right? Are you familiar with his explanation of incest? That why incest is out there? Because he basically says that if it were allowed, then basically people would only like pair up with their relatives, and they would not go and like settle society because they're available to you and you have a natural love for them, and and they're cooperative, and then society wouldn't develop.
It's really Freudian.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's the real Freudian thing is why you heard the Gemara about why we don't have desire for our Krovin anymore.
No.
So it's the whole Gemara. You have heard the Gemara about God shefted the avodah zarah for the Yetzirah for avodah zarah, right? Yeah. But the first part of the Gemara says that that they, or another part of the Gemara says that they wanted God to remove the Yetzirah for Rios. So God did that, and then it says they couldn't find a single egg in all of the land, meaning it stopped all desire for sexual stuff, even in animals. So then they said, okay, don't take it all away, but cut it in half. And then the answer that they were given was heaven doesn't grant a half. So then the compromise was God took the Yetzirah for Arias and then blinded it. And that means that we're no longer aroused by our female siblings or like relatives. That's very Freudian of like the disgust that we feel about the thought of incest is really like stemming from an altered form of the desire. Like, that same power of disgust is really coming from a strong desire, But my point in bringing this up is like, the Rambam, again, I say adultery is in a different category because adultery is in the mishpatim. Like that's almost a form of like gezel, or like geneva, But the arayos, the Rambam seems to indicate that it's hukim, and he even says in the Shimon Prakim, it's in the same category as pork of like efshi of alma asay aviv shemashman gazar alai. Like you shouldn't say I don't want it. You say or you should not. That you should say, but like I want it, but what can I do? It's utter. Just like kashrus, where the perfection comes from the keeping of the institution of regulating your instinctual behaviors in society, not this particular thing. So again, just to summarize, avodah zara actually is harmful in the particular. Arayos, depends on which the arayos you're talking about. You can argue that it's not really harmful in particular, but it'd be very bad if it became prevalent in society because it would undermine the entire value of kedusha, and then that could lead to more bad stuff, Or like something, let's say, like the cross-dressing. I mean, that's an example of that nowadays you can see. Like, what's the big deal if you if people like dress in different clothing? The answer is it does corrode the value of kedusha in Klal Yisrael by mixing gender roles and opening certain channels in terms of like sexual drives and energy, and like that's very, very fluid, that could change in the norms in society, so the Torah has to like clamp down on these things, and one of the tools it uses other than the onshim is stigmatizing it by calling it a Toeivah. And that's also how I think that Shlomo HaMelech can apply this to other things also, because it's not like there's only this one class of things that God considers a Toeivah and anything else is not, is that certain things you can call a Toeivah in order to use that tool, like Gaiva. He calls Gaiva a Toeivah because Gaiva is the worst of all of the personal mitos, because it leads to many bad things. Yeah. So that's the theory.
Mm-hmm. It just feels a little imprecise. I feel like
because I'm not unifying it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like I let's say could have taken away 3 averos from this list or added 3 averos to this list, and like the theory would still.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. What Shlomo did.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I am saying that.
Yeah.
And the fact that Shlomo does that, to me, is like a good raya that it is expandable.
There's not have to be a reason why the Torah saw fit to extra stigmatize these ones.
Right. And that I don't know the answer to, meaning that it could be that, I don't know. I mean, it could be societal factors. It could be certain things were more common in the, or more in need of being stigmatized in the time that the Torah was given to Bnei Israel. And by Shlomo Melech's time, which was like 800 years later or whatever, then like other things needed that,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Yeah. Now, in terms of the way that we relate to it, so you end up with a weird thing, because let's say, like I started off by mentioning that the one that all of the Christians and like a lot of the Jews put the emphasis on is Mishkav Zachar, right? But like no one does that about weights and measures. No one does that about Avodah Zarah and about like horoscopes, like, so at the very least, then a person should take into account what God actually calls a Toeivah and like use it consistently, and maybe cultivate like a sense of Toeivah based on the psukim. That'd be the very, very least. At least then you'd be in line with what the Chumash is saying. But also, I think that when you're analyzing any of these mitzvos, then you should keep in mind, if this theory is true, you should keep in mind that the real quality of Toeivah is going to come from understanding the Tam HaMitzvah. And that's not going to match up with the stigma feeling of Tam. Like someone who understands why arayos are bad, it's not the incest. Like that is what the Torah is trying to promote, because for the Hamon, then like that's the correct reaction. Like we want people to be disgusted by the idea of incest, but if you're reading the more Nevuchim and you have this idea of like the sexual architecture of Kedusha in Klal Yisrael, and how like restricting certain, almost all sexual partners to a pru u'revu heterosexual relationship in order to keep certain, sexual norms out of Klal Yisrael, and also to promote like building up bias. That's a much more sophisticated idea, that the more you understand the idea, the more you're going to lose the ew feeling. and the ew feeling will be a much more philosophically enlightened, like this is philosophically bad, but not like the instinctual ew, you know? So I think that, and again, that's what I think that you learn from the Bar Kapara thing. And that's the other thing. Rebbe tried to explain to him a theory of Toeivah, and he refuted it.
Right.
You know, right? He refuted everything, and the answer was get me drunk and I'll reveal the secret. You know, like again, when I say drunk, I don't know if he was actually drunk, but like pour me wine. You know, and dance. I don't know about the dancing. Dancing, I can't figure out. You know, dance for me, like Rakotli. Don't know what to make of that.
Maybe the dancing was like he's trying to like bring about like this feeling of like there's something like weird and like not okay going on.
Certainly brought that about in me. Yeah.
Yeah, don't publicize it here.
Yeah, I was you know, I was thinking about that. It's a real I once asked for Pesach about publicizing the idea that Gan Eden might not be literal, you know, because it seems like those who hold by that approach concealed it, you know. And the answer that Rav Pesach gave me, and I was talking about it in the context of my high school class, you know, in the context that Rav Pesach, or the answer that Rav Pesach gave me was that like maybe in a certain time period, then it would be proper to not disturb like the literal reading of it, but in an era where like biblical truth is being challenged in antagonistic ways on college campuses, and like people are like making fun of it for being anti-science, you know, and like saying a ridiculous talking snake thing, then there is a benefit in revealing that, even if it's going to potentially like cause questions and problems for other people. So with issues like this, I really don't know. Like, I do think that people have a messed up idea. I think people have a highly Christianized idea of Toeivah, you know, and I think that that's bad. The question is, like, you know,
This music almost like worked too well.
right, I know, but if it worked well consistently,
Right.
then that'd be good, you know. And here's the other thing also, and this part I'm going to not record. This part I'm not going to record.